how to rest well, and finally learn how to rest properly. Some people are sleeping 8 or 9 hours a night and are still waking up mentally exhausted, not physically tired, mentally tired, like their brain never actually stopped running. And honestly, that's becoming dangerously normal because modern people have forgotten how to rest properly. We spend hours scrolling social media, watching Netflix until 2 a.m., listening to podcasts while eating, checking notifications every 5 minutes, trying to relax while our brain is still consuming information nonstop. And then we wonder why we still feel emotionally drained. A few years ago, author Johann Hari wrote about how modern attention is constantly being stolen by technology and overstimulation. And once you notice it, you can't unsee it anymore because most people today are not resting. They're distracting themselves from mental exhaustion. And those are not the same things. So in this video, we're going to talk about real rest, burnout recovery, nervous system recovery, and why so many people secretly feel exhausted all the time, even when they technically took a break. And if you've been feeling emotionally flat lately, like your brain is overloaded all the time, subscribe, because this channel is built for people trying to rebuild themselves quietly instead of destroying themselves slowly. Part 1. The problem nobody talks about? Think about this for a second. Have you ever opened TikTok for just 5 minutes and suddenly almost an hour disappeared? Over the last few years, the media has warned people constantly about the psychological effects of short-form content. And honestly, TikTok became one of the biggest platforms pushing short videos far beyond what our brains were ever designed to handle. Infinite scrolling, fast dopamine hits, hundreds of videos in a single hour, constant stimulation every few seconds. And this is exactly what 90% of modern people are struggling with right now. Not physical exhaustion, mental exhaustion. Because afterward, your attention span feels worse. Simple tasks feel heavier, and your mind somehow feels even noisier than before. That's not real rest, that's overstimulation. And the scary part is, modern culture has normalized this behavior completely. There's always something playing: music, videos, notifications, messages, ads, background noise. Some people haven't experienced true silence in years, even during meals, even before sleep, even in the bathroom. The brain never fully stops consuming. And eventually, people lose the ability to slow down without feeling guilty. That's why healthy productivity feels impossible for so many people now, because productivity without burnout cannot exist if your nervous system never gets a chance to recover. Part 2. Entertainment is not always recovery. Now, obviously, entertainment is not evil. Games are fun, movies are fun, social media can be fun too. But fun and recovery are not always the same thing. A lot of people spend their weekends doing nothing but binge watching shows, eating junk food, and scrolling endlessly in bed. Then Sunday night arrives, and somehow their emotional exhaustion feels even worse. You know what that reminds me of? There's a famous story about Ernest Hemingway. After writing for long periods, he would stop early on purpose and walk away before mentally exhausting himself completely, because he understood something modern people ignore: the brain needs recovery before it completely crashes. But today, people wait until they're already burned out before they finally rest. And by then, their nervous system is already overloaded. If this sounds painfully familiar, comment overloaded. Seriously, I think a lot more people are struggling with this quietly than we realize. Part 3. The modern world profits from your exhaustion. Now here's the uncomfortable part. The modern world is engineered to keep you exhausted. TikTok doesn't profit when you feel peaceful. Netflix doesn't make money when you sleep early. Social media platforms don't want you disconnected from screens. They want your attention, as much of it as possible. Former Google design ethicist Tristan Harris has talked publicly about how modern apps are intentionally designed to hijack human attention using infinite scroll, autoplay, and dopamine loops. And honestly, Once you understand the attention economy, a lot of modern life suddenly makes sense. Refresh, swipe, scroll, repeat. Tiny hits of stimulation every few seconds, not enough to satisfy your brain, just enough to keep you consuming. That's why so many people today feel emotionally numb, not deeply sad, not deeply happy either, just mentally tired all the time. And if you've ever felt like your focus is getting weaker every year, subscribe. Because most people are blaming themselves for problems that their environment is actively making worse. Part 4. Your brain is not weak, it's overloaded. A lot of people think they lack discipline. But wait a second. What if your brain isn't weak? What if it's just overloaded? Stanford researchers have repeatedly studied how constant digital stimulation affects attention, stress, and mental fatigue. And the results are not exactly comforting. The human brain was never designed to process this much information nonstop. News, videos, messages, ads, short-form content, notifications every few minutes. Your nervous system never fully relaxes, and eventually, even resting starts feeling difficult. That's why some people sit in silence for 2 minutes and instantly reach for their phone. Stillness feels uncomfortable now, not because humans are lazy, but because overstimulation has rewired their baseline. That's also why dopamine detox became such a massive topic online recently. Deep down, people can feel that something about modern life is exhausting them psychologically. Part 5. Well, what real rest actually looks like. So what does real rest actually look like? First, sleep properly, not scrolling in bed for 2 hours while your brain absorbs endless stimulation. Real sleep is the foundation of burnout recovery. Matthew Walker, the neuroscientist who wrote Why We Sleep, has explained how sleep directly affects emotional regulation, memory, focus, and mental health. You cannot heal mental exhaustion with caffeine and 4 hours of sleep. Doesn't work. Second, deep rest for your nervous system. Walking without headphones, sitting quietly for 10 minutes, being away from screens, doing absolutely nothing for a little while. Sounds simple, right? Modern people struggle with this badly. Third, physical recovery, sunlight, movement, fresh air, a healthy sleep schedule. Human beings were not designed to stare at glowing rectangles indoors all day. Fourth, mental rest, not entertainment. Actual breathing room for your brain, no endless content, no nonstop information, no constant stimulation. And fifth, emotional rest. Some people are exhausted because they spend all day pretending to be okay, pretending not to care, pretending they're not overwhelmed. That drains energy too. If you've been feeling burned out lately, comment the one habit you know is making your exhaustion worse. Sometimes honesty is the beginning of self-care for burnout. Part 6. The real tragedy of modern life. And maybe this is the real tragedy. Modern people don't lack entertainment anymore. They lack recovery, they lack peace, they lack silence. The philosopher Blaise Pascal once wrote that many human problems come from our inability to sit quietly alone in a room. And honestly, that quote feels terrifyingly accurate now, because people are constantly stimulated, but deeply disconnected from themselves. So listen carefully. Learning how to rest properly is not laziness, it's survival, because burnout always collects its debt eventually, sooner or later. And maybe one of the most important forms of self-care today is protecting your mind in a world that constantly profits from your exhaustion. If this video helped you feel understood instead of judged, subscribe. Because real rest, real growth, and real healing usually begin quietly. This is Orvian Quietly Becoming. I'll see you in the next video.